Hey everyone, Dashi Miller here with another of our Warriors Whiteboard Wednesday. So, if you're a Warrior Protector and you're looking to make some improvements to your wrist reversals, today's the right day. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at not just making your wrist locks more effective, right? We're also going to take a look at springboarding off of that to a whole other level of training where we're gonna pull out the principles that are being taught in the wrist reversals, the Omote Gyaku and Uragyaku. For those of you who are in Bujinkan training, ninjutsu, whatever, you might call it something different if you're in a different martial art. We're going to take a look at the principles that actually are operating. Right, we're going to make it simple, give you easy names and all that. Right, but what we want to do is be able to springboard off of wrist locks to see how these same principles are driving other techniques, right? Other things that we're doing, other locks, other holds, other throws. Sorry, my camera's making little weird kind of things at me here, right? But how they're all held together, right? And if we can see things in groups, then we can very, very quickly pick up a new skill, just fly forward with it, right? Learn the mechanics very, very quickly, and then just get to the power stage as quickly as possible, because that's the idea, right? We want to be able to do things as fast, right, as efficiently as possible so that we're not just grinding away. We never know when, right, or who or what, when something's going to happen. We need our skills, right? We need to make this stuff happen, all right? So I'll take a look at these wrist reversals, right? For those of you who know the Japanese names, right, Omote Gyaku, right? Okay. Omote Gyaku means frontal or obvious reversal, right? Take a look at that at some other point, right? I'm actually going to split these today, right? We're going to put Ura Gyaku over here, right? Same thing, right? But this means back or hidden reversal, right? What the hell, right? So we've got one that's frontal, one that's back. Some people call it outside, inside, that kind of thing, right? But what we want to do is go beyond just this idea of a wrist twist, which is a really bad translation. At no point in either one of these things does it say wrist, right? Kote, right? It's not listed, right? Same thing with the general category that these come from, that also includes Hongyaku, Takeyori, those kind of things, right? Gyaku-te waza, right? Gyaku, reversal, te, hand, right? Waza, action, right? So, you know what? Let's get rid of this for just a second because I want to do a quick little grouping thing right here, okay? So most people know about twisting the wrist and all that kind of stuff, right? But there's actually three purposes, right? So if we just look at the gyaku idea, right? Hand reversals, and we just start off with looking at three goals, right? Three things that we can do with it, three things that we can accomplish, right? So first thing, obviously, right? We can lock the joint, right? I mean, that's what people think of, all that kind of stuff, right? Right? We can apply them as a takedown, right? And three, we can lock them, right? To break them. Okay, what that means is I'm locking them down to either shatter that wrist or to lock them down so I can shatter something else, right? So again, most people tend to focus right here, right? It's all about the joint lock, okay? It's kind of like when people focus on rolling, right? As long as they get their ass over their head, that's where the brain tends to stop, right? As opposed to looking at rolling like I was standing, right? And I'm going to roll, right? And a roll is a circle, right? So the roll's not over until at least this point, which was the start point, or actually a little bit beyond that, right? Talk about that some other Whiteboard Wednesday. And I know a couple of episodes ago, if you've been following along, right, we took a look at making your joint locks more effective, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not actually going to be looking at what was in that lesson. So, right. So if you're following along, if you're on the YouTube page, you got the list of all the episodes and stuff like that. Just go back and look at the Kansetsu Waza, go back and look at the joint locks and get that thing that actually involves other joints. Today, we're going to very specifically focus on the wrist joint itself, but we're going to, so we're going to look at the wrist joint itself so that we understand how this works, right? But we're going to focus here, right? I'm going to jump right over the fact that we're locking the joint. Because I got to tell you, if you only focus on this, this is a huge reason why sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. We get it, but we only have it for like a microsecond to 3 seconds, and then the guy takes a step and out, whatever, right? Because again, it's just like that rolling analogy. If we're focusing on only a piece of it, but we don't know what the grand scheme is, then, well, shit. I mean, that's like, we're just coming out of our annual spring camp, right? It's 2022, right? As I'm recording this, it's May 18th, 2022. So if you're listening to this or watching this way in the future, you know where we are. But we just came out of our spring camp, and the focus was on like different psychological aspects of not just succeeding in life, but in within your fight training and all that kind of stuff, right? And anyway, one of the things that one of my Shidoshi, one of the guys in-house, taught on was more effective goal setting. And it's not about goal setting, but one of the things that came up that made he and I laugh, and I don't know if everybody else got it or not, but people tend to half-ass things, right? They do just enough to make them feel like they're doing something, right? And then they confuse that with, well, that's what you do for mastery. That's what you do for uber success, okay? And one of the things that came up was, well, shit, if the number of people that I know that have set the goal that like, oh man, I want to train in the martial arts. That's my goal. I want to train in the martial arts, or I want to train in ninjutsu. Okay. Sounds good, right? If you don't understand the mindset, it sounds good, right? I mean, that's my goal. Okay, great. All you need to do is go to a seminar, or even easier than that, right? Call up a place and schedule an intro class, or to schedule like a free trial or something like that. You go to that class and then you never have to go back. Goals accomplished. You have trained in the martial arts. Okay. It's the same thing with this, right? If my goal is just to lock the joint, well, shit, there's actually 3 or 4 ways to lock a joint, right? What I want to do is lock it in the way that actually does something to him. Okay. One of my teachers a long time ago, Shoji Malmstrom, I talk about him on a regular basis, right? We could do anything. We could take up a kamae, whatever, right? He'd stop you and he'd go over and go, why do you put your hand right there? And most people go to, is that wrong? Or where am I supposed to put it? Or oh, I thought that's where it goes. And that wasn't the point of his question. The point of his question is, do you know why it's there? Other than, that's what Sensei said. Or that's a part of our style, or whatever, right? Why is it there? And his next follow-up was, if you don't know why, stop doing it because it's stupid. It's not stupid, you doing something and not knowing why you're doing it and what it contributes to the grand scheme of the success you're trying to produce. That's stupid, because that's just like a hamster on a wheel, running its ass off, but not going anywhere. But you know what? Feels like it got, ooh, look at all the stuff I did. Okay, well, fantastic, right? So we're going to focus on how joint locks do this thing, because what most people do, right, is they just figure, well, shit, I just do it harder. I just do it faster, okay? But let me share something with you, okay? There's this old joke about 2 rights don't make a wrong, right? But 2 rights made an airplane, okay? Doing something harder or faster may sometimes produce the results you're looking for. But you know what? A broken clock, if we're looking at an analog clock, not a digital clock, because digital clocks, they're either on or off, right? But an analog clock, right? You know, 1 through 12, hands on it and all that, right? A broken clock is right twice a day, but not intentionally, okay? So we want to get past all that, right? And we want to understand how things are working, right? So what I remind my students of all the time, and if you're one of my students, you'd hear this all the time, so much so that you probably want to throw up. Doing something faster or harder doesn't make it right. It makes it wrong. If it's wrong, it makes it wrong faster or harder. If you do something right, what you'll find is that you don't have to do it faster or harder. That thing produces the results instantaneously. Okay. Which kind of goes to any kind of goal, right? It doesn't matter if it's in life or your training or whatever, right? If something's not working, if you're not getting the results you're looking for, instead of trying to do that thing harder, what you need to do is back off and figure out all the things that you're supposed to be doing, but you're not doing, or all the things that are inhibiting that from happening. And then instead of trying to do this damn thing harder, systematically, because everything in nature, right? It's all systemized. There's all frameworks and formulas and all that, right? Systematically get rid of all the things that's preventing that from happening. And you know what? It'll happen all by itself, right? Like enlightenment or mastery or whatever. It happens by default. You don't work on those things. You work on the damn elements or eliminating the limitations and problems and blocks and all that are preventing that from happening. Okay? So anyway, right? So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at a couple of different things. One, I'm not going to write that. Well, actually, I will. Right. So we're going to talk about three locks that you could put on the wrist. 3 ways to lock the wrist. I've actually had as many as 5 applied to me, not necessarily at the exact same time, but in rapid succession. And it's not like it's a bunch of different movement, right? They're very, very subtle, right? But it can lock the wrist 5 different ways. And again, this goes to the gyaku-te 3-in-1, 3-in-1, 1-in-3 principle. It goes to the Tagagi-Yoshin scrolls. I think it's Tagagi-Yoshin that says control 3 lines of balance or break 3 lines of balance at the exact same time. Everything keeps going back to 3 in this art. What the hell's up with that? So anyway, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on another little picture, right? Because you get to get my really cool drawing things that are going on every time, or writing or whatever, right? We get the idea of an airplane, okay? And traditionally in airplanes, right, you still have the same thing even if it has a steering wheel or whatever. The mechanism's the same, right? I guess that should be a bigger tail. Anyway, right? So we're going to go back to joysticks, okay? For those of you who play video games, this shouldn't be that far, right? And it doesn't matter if the joystick's that big or if it's on one of these damn things, right? And it's just this little thing that you can toggle one direction, the other. I don't give a shit what it looks like. Anyway, right? But it's the idea, right? Okay. So, but with a joystick, okay, right? Let's say this is the front of the plane. I'm looking out of the cockpit this way, right? So I'm sitting here looking at this, okay? So here's this joystick, okay? If I move the joystick side, okay, that's called yaw, okay? That makes the airplane do this. I'm not worried about an airplane, okay? I have this one friend that every time I talk to them and I bring up an analogy, like they're like a cat where they're sitting there on the bed or the chair or whatever. You're watching TV, right? And you point at the TV to get the cat to look at something on the TV, and what do? They look at your damn finger, right? Or whatever, right? But it's not about the airplane. Right? I'm using these little analogies because this is a universal joint, just like they created on this, okay? So yaw is where your hand, can you see it? Moves side to side, okay? Little finger toward ulna bone, thumb toward radial bone, that kind of thing. This is yaw, right? So Uragyaku, right? I don't care how you have the hand. If you crank them this way, that opens up, causes a lot of pain. This locks, the system locks, okay? So we can lock it sideways. We call that Uragyaku, okay? Is it a part of the other ones? Yes. It's hon, main or principal, primary, okay? Not talking about Uragyaku today, but it's going to keep creeping up, okay? So if I move it, right, if I'm flying along and I do this, right, plane's going to go that way. If I move it this way, plane's going to go that way, right? I get that, right? Okay. If I push the stick that way or pull it this way, so if I do this or this, the plane either nosedives or nose climbs, right? So this is called pitch. I don't care what names you give things, just understand sai. Okay, we'll go back to Mr. Miyagi, right? Side, up, down. Okay, simple, right? Okay, so pitch, right? So with this kind of thing, right, we have omote takeori, we have Ura Takeori. It's done this way. Okay. So pitch. We have locks for all of these, right? We have names for these things. Okay. What I want to look at today is locking somebody so that we lock more than just the wrist. Okay. So what you can't see with like newer joysticks, I don't care if it was Atari stuff or typically speaking on the Nintendo stuff or whatever. I'm not a gamer, so I'm just kind of throwing these things out. So if I get the names wrong, I don't care, right? So get the idea, right? So what you can see is that in conventional airplanes, there's another, with the joystick, there's another motion, right? So I have to draw this a little bit differently, right? We're going to draw the stick from the top looking down, okay? So what you can do with the stick is you can rotate it one direction or the other. You twist it, okay? Rotation, okay? What rotation does for an airplane, so yaw makes it steer left, right, okay? Boats can do that, right? You can do pitch. Boats can't do this, and if they can, I'm going to go for a ride on one, right? But you can make it climb, you can make it dive, right? Rotation causes it to do barrel rolls, right? Okay, cool. So we have locks, right, that you can just twist it, okay? Conventional, what most people think of when it comes to Omote Gyaku, we're just rotating it. We're just rotating it, okay? So that's cool, right? We have locks for all these things, okay? But if we only did that, right, planes would be easy to shoot out of the sky. We think fighter jet, whatever, right? Because anybody chasing it could follow it, could follow it, could follow it, could follow it. This one, well, shit, all you're doing is turning around. So if somebody's shooting straight at you, you're still taking bullets up the butt, right? So, or whatever, right? You get the idea, okay? So, but if you combine these, right, now a plane can do this, right? It can barrel roll and move to the side and climb or dive or whatever, right? So it has a whole bunch more flexibility, more power, more maneuverability, right? All those kind of things. In gyaku-te, when you combine these, you add more control and limitation and stress to the joint. Okay? So, it behooves you to do these in succession or figure out how to do them together. So I don't have a partner here with me. You have to get this, right? So when somebody grabs, right, what people normally do is they just do some kind of like takedown or whatever, disarm. Could be pressure point, could be just this little leveraging thing to push it off the material, whatever, right? But then what they want to do is just kind of flip it over. See what my elbow just did? Okay. So when we're doing this form of Omote Gyaku, or I'm sorry, Uragyaku, or we do this form of Omote Gyaku, right? We have to be worried about what the elbow and the shoulder joint does. Because again, remember, go back to that other joint lock class that I did, where we talked about having to get the elbow and the shoulder out of the equation if we're focusing on the wrist joint. Just like we have to control the wrist and the shoulder if we're doing something to the elbow, we have to control the wrist and the elbow if we're doing something to the joint, right, or to the shoulder. Okay, right. So, but what if I'm not? What if I can't get into a position, right? Let's say we're doing Uragyaku, right? I can't get into a position where I can hold this down, and it's going to move, right? So as long as the elbow and shoulder are moving, it's going to take a long time. I'll even have students in class take somebody by the hand so they have it for this lock, right? And then just start turning it and see how long it takes until their partner ends up getting thrown off or until the joint locks. And what they'll find is that somebody can just adjust and adjust and adjust and adjust and adjust until, yeah, well, sensei, I mean, I tag him before. This is not about tagging anybody. This is not about doing something extra. This is about getting this to serve you and not have to cause more work, right? You ever work with somebody that they were brought in to relieve pressure and to help you out, but they end up causing more freaking work for you because they have no idea what they're doing or whatever it is they're doing is not effective? your techniques too, right? If your techniques suck, or if they're okay, if they're causing you more work, then the technique itself, there's a problem with it. Okay, this stuff has been saving lives for centuries, right? We don't come along and go, that one doesn't work. I don't get it. See, that one doesn't work for me, so I have to. Of course, you have to do all that extra shit because this isn't working right. Okay, so. So again, what we're looking at here is if I apply this yaw, right, this Uragyaku, no matter which lock I'm trying to do, no matter which one, okay, if the first thing I do is jam that side, see what I just did? Okay, so I've got them this way, right? And even if it's up down, right? If the first thing I do is lock it in a home direction and then do rotation, right? What's going to end up happening is that can't move so well, right? This is going to happen. It's going to stay down. And if I can add pitch to it, so I get this, and as I'm rotating it, I fold the hand in, it's going to do a whole lot more. Okay, same thing with Omote Gyaku. Same thing, okay? But again, it jams it up, and then the body, right, this person could just take a step. You ever do that? You ever put a wrist reversal or a wrist lock on somebody, and next thing you know, they take a step, and they're out. Right? Or they follow you around the room, right? You're doing this thing and they're just like, right? Looks like freaking kindergarten class. Okay. So, well, there's something missing. Okay. So the question is, what are these actions doing other than locking the wrist? Remember number one, like I'm doing a joint lock. Okay. Well, if he takes a step and he unlocks it, right? That's like locking your door, but then the freaking doorknob or the lock falls off the door. Door not so locked. Okay. So what are we doing? Okay. So let's do this. We'll start over here on Omote Gyaku. Omote Gyaku is called Omote Gyaku for a reason. Omote means frontal or obvious. Okay. Because it's easy to see what's happening. Uragyaku is not just twisting it in the opposite direction. Right? It's Ura hidden backside, right? Because if you don't understand what you're looking for, you can't produce the same result. Okay? So let's take a look at, let's see. We're going to shift this out to controlling his balance. Okay? Because what we want to do is we want to take away his ability to step. We want to take away his ability to move and adjust and adapt and relieve that pressure. Okay? So remember what I said, right? We're either going to take him down or we're going to lock him up to break him. But the takedown is really the same thing as number three. We're locking him up so he can't move his feet, so it's easy to take him off his feet and plant him on his face or plant him on his ass. Doesn't matter. Okay? So if we can focus on the end game, then we'll know what needs to be fixed in between touching him and breaking him. Okay? So first things first, right? Let's make little Tabi feet here. Okay? Well, he has flat feet, right? People with flat feet have a harder time learning taijutsu or any kind of thing that involves ashisbaki, good footwork, because they have a tendency to keep dropping their weight right there, which misaligns the knee, the ankle, the hip, and they don't have free control, right? So we want to, even if you have flat feet, you're going to have to move and figure out how to move so that your weight is on your feet where the hell it's supposed to belong. Okay? I'm not knocking you for having flat feet, right? Sometimes it's genetics, sometimes it's injury, sometimes just bad walking habits until you find this stuff and then you go, shit, I shouldn't have messed myself up. Doesn't matter, right? What matters is here you are, right? Okay? And we'll put another foot. Hopefully I can make these the same size. It's like drawing mittens. Oh, shit. Okay, so anyway, right? It's just my lousy drawing, all right? So I've got a worksheet for this for my students. So base level understanding with balance is if I draw a line between the heels, right? Could be back of the heels, center of the heels, whatever, right? If I draw a line from heel to heel and then I bisect that, right? All right, make a plus sign. I don't know if you can see that picture or that color or not. How about if we just do this? Okay, I bisect it, I make a plus sign, right? This is the power line, right? It's really difficult to break somebody's balance side-side because it's easy to step, okay? It's hard to break their balance off at certain angles. And now my weight's 50-50, and this is the beginner's lesson because the weight distribution is 50-50, okay? The advanced lesson is different because it's going to depend and determine on how much weight is on each foot. And you're going to have to do this by tactile feel and know where they are to know what angle to step off on. We just keep it simple, right? This is the power line. This is the balance line, okay? It's really difficult to knock somebody off balance sideways because they can lock the legs down and you're on this line, or they can take a slight step, broaden things out. The balance line, however, right? Easy, okay? Because you're pushing them off their heels. We don't have toes back here, right? This is Omote Gyaku, okay? This is Omote Gyaku, right? What I need to do is lock them up in a way that I can take them off their heels and off their heels, or later on, off a heel on the side of the foot or the inside of whatever line you're on, right? Okay? So that they can't step, right? Neither foot, the body doesn't know which foot to move, right? And it can't move them easily, right? Because again, going back to that Kansetsu joint lock video, what we want to do is lock things up in a way that all your locks and all your throws do the same thing. If you just remember this, you'll have a major litmus test to head for, right? They all do the same thing. They're all designed to lock the spine and immobilize the feet. That's it. It's the only two things. Lock the spine, immobilize the feet. When that happens, you can throw them. You can lock them. You can jam them up, right? You can keep them from being able to punch you with a follow-up, right? Because everything that you're doing is supposed to, because it's attached to the spine, lock the spine, okay? In Japan, the spine is known as the pillar of life and the pillar of strength, okay? Maintain it, everything's good, right? Screw it up, well, then you got major freaking problems, okay? So Omote Gyaku is about that direction, right? Because this is real simple, right? Like take somebody off his heels, okay? So we'll expand on this in a bit, right? So everything about Omote Gyaku is to break his balance that way, but we have to do it so he can't step and catch himself, okay? So this is something to explore because you're going to have to find this. This is one of those things, Hatsumi Sensei used to always describe this as something that, like, I can't teach it, right? I can explain things and I can explain what you're looking for and I can demonstrate it, but I can't teach it in the way that you can memorize it and just automatically do it, right? So I can't teach it, but you can learn it. But it's going to take a lot of exploration to figure it out, okay? So you work with the little locks and all that. You learn how to control certain things so that you what? Seize the spine. And if you seize the spine, if you do that, you immobilize the feet. Both. Okay? Right? So everything goes to that. Right? So Omote Gyaku is about taking them off their heels simultaneously. Right? I'm not going to draw it over there again. Right? Uragyaku is about taking them where? I bet you're going to say off their toes. Okay? Okay, fair enough. The problem with Uragyaku, I am going to draw it. This guy's got different feet. All right? The problem with Uragyaku is this looks like the line of balance. Yes? If we're ignorant of anatomy and physiology, and that doesn't mean you need to go to medical school, but if we're ignorant of certain basic things about the body, you know, that natural stuff Hatsumi Sensei's been talking about for decades, right? If you're ignorant about that stuff, then you're going to get whatever results, okay? So taking somebody off their heels is as simple as this, right? Your hips, right? This junction right here where your legs plug into your torso, right? This is called koi right here. But either way, where they plug in, okay? This point is the biggest joint in your body, okay? That's a joint, okay? I'm not talking about the sacral joint in the pelvis assembly. I'm talking about the fact that you can bend all the way over, right? Well, maybe some of you can't. But anyway, right? You can do this bending, right? Going backwards, you can't go very far. Now, what you can do is shove your knees forward, come up on the balls of your toes, and arch farther and feel like you're bending way far backwards, but you're not bending. You're manipulating a couple of boards that are stuck together, right? And it's, you can flex, right? But not that far. It's not the same as the front because the system is different, right? The pelvis is open at the front, so it's easy to move there, right? What you're doing back here is actually moving from your lumbar, not your pelvis, because you can't, okay? So what makes Uragyaku is you have actually understand this, okay? So somebody's balance line is always here. That doesn't mean their center of balance is there, right? But their balance line is here. The one we're going to break with Omote Gyaku is always here. So taking somebody off their heels is easier. This might not be as easy for you as this, but taking them off their heel, that's pretty easy because they don't have a foot and some toes back behind them to catch. Their knee doesn't bend in that direction, right? So everything is designed to go that way. So this is actually weaker, okay? For Uragyaku, right? That's a nose. Whatever, okay? So we would think that the balance line is off the toes. That's what most people think, and that's how they operate. That's how they try to deliver or execute on the wrist reversal. And I'm not saying that you can't twist his wrist, but twisting somebody's wrist is a far cry from manipulating the joint so that the spine locks up, the feet immobilize, the legs pop out from under them, and they land on their freaking face. It's a huge difference, okay? So the reality is that this is your guide point, okay? That's the hips, okay? Remember, natural posture, okay? She's in. Ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over feet. Not knees because they're slightly flexed, right? That's the first thing we need to be aiming for. So if you got one of these pelvic tilts going on, you got your head moving forward, you got your shoulders shifted, whatever it is, well, you may say that that's natural for you. It's not natural for a human body. That's habitual for you, and your body's grown to match your habits, but it's not the same, okay? So, Omote Gyaku line, right? Uragyaku is the center of the feet, or I'll even give you toes. What the hell? I'll give you toes, okay? Plus the length of their body and a little bit. I usually say top of the head. So their balance line is actually all the way out here. It's in front of them. It's hidden because unless you know what you're looking for, let me back up here so I can get enough of me in the camera. Okay? So if you try to break my balance forward, what's going to happen? I'm going to step. Right? Because no matter how much you twist this, see where it is? The balance line's way out here. Okay? So Uragyaku is about manipulating the wrist so you move the balance line from here to at least here. If you do it correctly, you move it all the way back to the Omote Gyaku balance line. Okay? Everything changes. If I can do Uragyaku and move it back here, I can shatter his wrist in place. I can lock him so I can do something else, right? All that stuff. I can actually take somebody from Uragyaku. You can take somebody using Uragyaku and take them down backwards, just like you would take somebody down for Omote Gyaku. Now, if you do that, their wrist is going to shatter. But they probably shouldn't have put their hands on you, right? Okay? So this is important, right? So if we understand that combining yaw, pitch, and rotation in a way, and combining some of the stuff from the Kansetsu lesson, right? Okay? Then we can do those things. We're not just locking the joint, right? We can take them down with the lock. Or we could lock them up, like putting them in a vise, and then do whatever you're going to do from there. Okay. Now, this lesson would be just fucking fantastic, right? If that's all we did, right? I mean, you could take this and just shatter things, right? And do things and spend a lot of time focusing on getting this right. Okay. But what if we were able to take Omote and Uragyaku and use them as principles for everything else that we're doing? How much more powerful would that make your ganseki, your osotonage, right? Your musodori, your whatever. How much more powerful would that make all of your other locks, holds, and throws? And in all reality, your ichimonji no kata, okay? What would that do for you? Okay? That'd be freaking cool, because now you wouldn't just be looking at the moves. You'd be looking at things based on the way a master looks at it, right? If I need to lock this guy in place, because we're in an enclosed place, right? Every once in a while, there's attacks in roadside rest stops or truck stops or whatever, in the restrooms, right? Can you imagine being in a restroom stall and somebody kicks the door open, or as you're moving in, they jam you in there, and then you're in this very tight space and you have to operate from there. No amount of moving this guy laterally, right, is going to do anything for you, because he can put his hands out or use his body to create leverage against the side walls and stay in the damn fight. I need to drop this guy down at my feet, right? So I'm going to need to lock him in place and strike from very specific angles and all that. No different from locking down or sending or whatever, right? So we need to understand how this kind of stuff works, right? But simple, right? We talked about, we looked at the picture, right? Omote Gyaku is about what? Taking somebody off their feet. Which way? Backwards. Which part of their feet? Heels. Backwards. Okay? If we borrow the Gyoko to use 3 and 1, 1 and 3 principle, what techniques do that? Let's see. Osoto nage. Right? Well, a lot of people call it rear hip throw, right? But this osoto means great outer, right? And nage, throw, right? Okay. So we're taking him this way, off his heels. Okay. How about onikudaki? See, everybody keeps focusing on this. What they should be focusing on, which is their litmus test, is spine locked, feet locked. You can do whatever you want, okay? Because he can't get at you and he can't get away from you, okay? So onikudaki, right? So we have the arms are bent this way. We've got our arms in a certain position. We lever this, right? This happens, right? You ever try to do this and your person just does this, or they move in on you, whatever, okay? So part of it is how we're applying the lock and understanding the shoulder, elbow, wrist connection, right? That I covered in that other video, right? And the other one is the direction I move in. Why would I move in on any given angle, on any given direction? Okay, and this is where people keep throwing shit around, right? Well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do that. Yeah. When? Under what conditions is that the right answer? Any one of those directions. You start by looking at the feet. Okay? And again, I just did 50-50 today, but you can take a look at that, right? So onikudaki uses, and we, for expediency in the dojo, we just call all of these things, anything that takes somebody off their feet, the Omote Gyaku principle. And then look at that. I've got a long range way to take somebody off their heels. I have a mid-range way to take somebody off their heels. Oh, by the way, Mushadori does the same thing. Okay. And I have a very close range way of taking somebody off their heels. Okay. 3 techniques. Does the same thing, uses the same principle. Okay. Uragyaku, right? Takes them off their feet after we move that extended, we'll put them there with their nose, their feet are under it, right? That their balance line way back here, the first thing we have to do is move it back to their center. okay, after we've moved it, okay? But and in this case, right, the whole idea with it is to take them forward, but if you get it right, you can also take them backwards, okay? But we'll just keep it simple, right? We're taking them that way, but if we don't get this right, they can do that. Shit. You can turn my wrist almost all the way over if I'm allowed to bend forward, right? Or I can take a step, okay? So we have to eliminate adjustments, right? We have to take away their ability to adapt. And we do that by what? Seizing the spine, locking the feet. God, I keep repeating myself. Anyway, what are some other techniques that do that? Ganseki nage. Or any of the gansekis, actually. Ganseki nage, throwing a big rock. Okay? Nage. Okay? Ganseki nage is nothing but a musodori armbar, right? Musodori throw. It's a lateral musodori. Check the legs, boom, gone. Okay? So Ganseki nage, right? Does the same thing. I need to lock this in a way that they can't just step. I need to lock it in a way that they can't just bend over, right? Somebody can bend over, then they can, at the very least, roll out of what you're doing, right? Taking all that shit away from them, okay? So Ganseki nage. What's another one? Okay? Uragyaku, right? This big reversal, right? Uragyaku, this kind of thing. Musodori, right? Locks them down this way. Whatever, okay? I'm just going to write Uragyaku on here. Uragyaku, right? Great reversal, okay? So look what I have again, okay? I have a long range way to lock them so they can't move, so I can break them or take them down. I have a mid-range. It's not that their arm's not extended, but I'm not way out here. I'm now in here, right? I've this mid-range. I'm closer to them, right? Way of doing the same thing. And I have a very close range because to do this one, you're right up and against their body. You're levering the shoulder down, you're bringing the arm up, but it's not just a matter of doing this. Because if they can bend, you got nothing, okay? Well, you have something, but you're about to have a whole lot of nothing, right? So I now have 3 ways to take them forward, and they're not just compartmentalized toys. They're not just these little techniques. Oh, I know how to do Uragyaku. I know how to do Ganseki nage. I know how to do Onikudaki. Great. What are you doing with them that's all the same? I know how to do. I know how to do. I know how to do. Well, freaking fantastic. What's the value of the technique other than stroking ego and making ourselves feel all warm and fuzzy? What's the deal? What's the big thing, right? So if we're taking them forward off their feet where they can't move the feet, it's the same thing as going backwards, right? They can't, their brain does not know which leg to step with or which foot to step with. And if they can step, it's like this little adjustment kind of thing because they can't move normally, right? So if we're doing that, we have a whole bunch of techniques. I only listed 3. I mean, I listed the primary 2. I only listed 3. How many other techniques do you know that take them forward or back that are actually using the Omote or Ura Gyaku principle, and everything changes, right? So we just flipped the joint lock and used it as a key to do a whole lot more faster, more powerfully, right? And we can do a lot more with it, right? So anyway, this is it, right? Again, you know, my job and what I do, right, is I help warrior-minded, hero protector-minded people, right, to be able to protect themselves and others, right, as quickly and as powerfully as possible, right, through systems, frameworks, and these lessons, instead of just kind of throwing stuff around because, you know, that's the way everybody else does it, okay? Without you having to, you know, take like forever to get it to happen, right? So if I can help, I'm here to help, right? Whiteboard Wednesdays, here's a whole lesson. You can take this and run with it, right? If you want help, you can always shoot me an email, right? Little call request thing there. And the thing, we're setting up another system where people can just, go through and schedule themselves an appointment or whatever, right? Or if you want to take a next little micro step, every Friday, our academy class focuses on what I do during the Whiteboard Wednesday things, right? So if you want that next little piece and you want to see this in action, right? And maybe even get some questions answered and all that, we do it. We set up a camera system and all that, and we do it through Zoom. And so you can just go to that URL. It's right there, right? onlineninjaacademy.com/Friday virtual training, little dashes in between each one, right? And just sign up, right? It's $4.99, $4.99 for a class, right? Cheaper than friggin' lunch anymore, right? So you can get that, get a 75 to 90 minute class on taking this stuff to the next level, right? I mean, I can't make it, well, I guess I could make it better on that, but you know what I found? Even with the $4.99 things, okay, I don't get any tire kickers for $5. Okay, people aren't even willing to pay $5 to check things out, right? To maybe get better, right? So what I get are really serious people. Okay. So do I have free stuff out there? Yeah. And you know what I have also? A lot more people complaining because I don't have enough free stuff out. Okay. Here's the what you need to do. I even gave you some how to tie it into other things, right? If you want more of the how and all that kind of stuff, and you want some help, I'm more than happy to help you out. If not, find somebody else that knows this stuff, because this didn't come from just training with whoever was available. This came from me deciding that if I was going to get this art, I was going to get this art from the best people in the art. Hatsumi Sensei, several masters, Shihan, Japanese master Shihan, and other ones that had law enforcement, security, very specific things in realms that I knew they needed to be able to use this stuff to not die or to help prevent other people from dying, right? People are just looking for a recreation or a cool thing or to feel all like, warm and fuzzy about themselves. I don't care about them, right? I sought out, but that also means that things were a little bit more challenging. I had to get my head wrapped around things, and I had to learn things that were more than just. See anything lock up yet? Okay. That runs out of movement, so I guess you could call it locked, but it's not doing anything else to me. Okay. So anyway, there's that. If you want to get on the new training, right, that the doors will be open until 4:30 Eastern time on this Friday, which is May 20th, right? And we're going to start something this time that we have not done in the past, right? Because I cannot handle a whole bunch of people between class and running back and forth to a damn computer screen and answering questions and helping people out and all that kind of stuff, right? So we're putting a limit of 15 people that are allowed to sign up for that, okay? So you can see I'm making a boatload of money, right? Really what that's paying for is Zoom service and a bunch of other stuff I have to pay for, right? So I'm not making anything off of it, okay? But we're going to cut the limit at 15 people. As a matter of fact, as soon as I close this off and I go back into the system, right, and I'm reset the clock, right, so you'll be able to sign up here in about 10 minutes, right, if you're on live. I'm going to reset the system. I'm going to reset the system not just based on time, but I'm also going to set the system so no more than 15 people. And if I find out after this class that 15 is too many, I'm going to back it down to 10. I don't care if I have to back it down to 3. Right? I want the most dedicated students who want to actually learn something and not just be, jumping around on YouTube watching videos. Okay? That's it. And I know here I'm on YouTube, right? Or Facebook or wherever you happen to be seeing this, but that's what I got. Okay? So there's a whole lesson. If you want to dive into it, this is the macrocosm, the big picture. If you want to dive into the microcosm and take a look at some examples and some technique examples and some details, this Friday, our class is at 6 p.m. Eastern time, but the doors close for pre-registering at 4:30 or when all 15 spots are taken. At that point, you can't get in. And after that, the only people that get the recordings are the ones who were in class or on the virtual. There's no way to get the recordings after that unless you're one of my full-on students. Okay? That's it. So if you want to make it, great. Love to have you. If not, I understand that too. You got to do, choice is yours, right? That's it. I'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Be safe, train hard, and think about things beyond monkey moves. Just a little good ninja idea. Okay? See you guys.